Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, once again, and welcome to the 77th Annual OVAC Rudy Munley All-Star Charity Football Classic, presented by Huntington Bank.
What's up, sports fans? I'm your host, James Huggins, and this is On the Air with the OVAC. Before we get started here, we're going to give you a little bit of background of the Ohio Valley Athletic Conference. There are 51 schools, 19,000 athletes across the upper Ohio Valley. It was established in 1943, covering sports like baseball, softball, basketball, cross country, football, swimming, track, wrestling, and cheerleading. Here today, I have the executive director of the OVAC, Dirk Decoy. He's been here since 2019, going into his 5th year as the executive director. And he's a Bel Air, Ohio native, and he's from St. John Central High School with a degree from Ohio University with a background in football. How you doing, Dirk?
Very good. Thanks for having me today, James.
Now, tell us a little bit about the background of the OVAC. I know you have a lot of knowledge.
The OVAC is still the largest high school athletic conference in the country. It's a two-state conference. We have 20 counties, 5,400 square miles, over 19,000 student athletes, and there are 652 head coaches in the OVAC.
Wow.
So to kind of give you an idea of how big, 652 head coaches, that's a lot. You know, not counting assistant coaches and then ADs and other admins. So it's quite the conference. Proud to be a part of it with a lot of other good people. And we just keep going. It's our 80th anniversary and started in 1943. So we're just carrying our torch. You know, there's a lot of people that carried the torch before us, and we're just doing our part to keep this thing going.
Now, it takes so much for you to keep all of this afloat. I know you said that before we got on air that there was 6 different championships within how long?
8 days.
8 days.
Yes.
6 different championships in 8 days across 6 different sports with so many athletes across so many divisions in Ohio and West Virginia.
Yeah.
Now, Dirk, I have a question. What made you want to join the OVAC?
Youth and sports. How can you go wrong working with youth and sports? You know, I've always been a sports guy. Played 4 different sports in high school. Was never the best in any, but I just had to compete. I had to get out there and, you know, lettered in 4 different sports, and it just kind of carried through. Became in college, I played rugby, loved the sport, and then got into football officiating. Did that for 29 years, and I had to give it up only because to take this job. So it's just a sports thing, and you know, I've coached several sports at every level, the grade school level, the high school level, varsity, and I've always been that dad to help out. You know, that dad to kind of, if somebody's needed. I coached basketball 3rd and 4th grade. I knew nothing about basketball, but they needed somebody, so I did it. And I always teased. I had a little 3x3 sticky note piece of paper, and I held it up and I told the parents, everything I know about basketball is on this piece of paper. And but the key was I had 3 AAU basketball players on my team, so we did pretty well. We made it to the championship both years, so it's a lot of fun. So yeah, it keeps me busy. You know, I still work a full-time job. This OVAC is quite the full-time job as well. But where there's a will, there's a way. And again, it's not just me. There's about 52 people, commissioners, directors, assistants in the OVAC. So, and that's what we need. So there's a lot of good people out there who do their thing, do their part for this conference to keep it going.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here today, Dirk, for the first episode of On the Air with the OVAC. So we had a lot of sports happening over this past weekend and the weekend before that. I mean, we had the OVAC swim meet, the OVAC wrestling championships, and we also had the bowling championships. We're going to get started with the OVAC swim meet this past Saturday. I know there was a little bit of a reschedule due to weather and things like that. But we got a lot of great photos with Caleb Graham Productions being the official photographer of the OVAC. And let's just get started with the big school division. We talk about the men's coach of the year, the women's coach of the year, the best swimmers, and who won that.
Yeah, and as you can see, all my paperwork here, this is all we've done in the last 8 days. The 6 championships we've had. We've had two swim championships, big school, large school. That was 2 of them last week. We had the wrestling tournament. We had bowling, boys and girls, big school, small school at St. Clair Lanes and down at Pike Street Lane and in Parkersburg. And this coming week, we've got dual meet wrestling on Wednesday and Thursday. And then this coming weekend, we have cheer championships and girls basketball championships. So this is all of that here that I've got to refer to.
Takes so much to do this.
It does. It really does. But it's a lot of fun. So looking at our swim championships, let's see here. Let's go with the 1A, 3A girls. The Lindsley School won in 1A, 3A girls. Do well. They do extremely well in swimming. St. Clairsville won in 4A, and in 1A, 3A boys, the Lindsley School won in 1A, 3A boys as well, and so did St. Clairsville in 4A boys.
Now, I saw that Lindsley had a 352 score and a 358 score in both of those division championships.
They did.
That
yes.
takes a lot of hard work and dedication from those coaches and from those athletes to put on those types of scores, staggering numbers in comparison to the other top teams.
Yes, yeah, they are staggering numbers. I think the next closest competitor was like they were about 5 times more than what the next closest was in one of them. So yeah, they've got it going on over at the Lindsley School, and they're swimming very good.
That is
Yes.
awesome.
And then looking at the 5A girls was won by Brook, and the 5A boys won by Parkersburg South. So there's 2 strong programs there. And if we want to talk a little bit about the individual, we have the men's coach of the year was Ryan Radcliffe from Parkersburg South. Women's coach of the year was Kelsey Blumetti from Brook. Women's swimmer of the year, Jordan Claypool from Parkersburg South. And men's swimmer of the year was Mason Francis from Warren. And that was a big school. In a small school, men's coach of the year was Ernie Banks from St. Clairsville. Women's coach of the year, it was 4-way tie being resolved this week. So we had a 4-way tie, so we're going to take another vote for that one.
And what made that 4-way tie
The coaches
happen?
vote.
Oh, so
Yeah.
all the coaches vote for that,
Yes.
and it just kind of everyone really liked all 4 of those coaches.
Yes.
That's
Yep.
awesome.
Yeah. And men's swim of the year was Zach May of St. Clairsville. Women's coach of the year women's swimmer of the year was Smiley Humpy from Wheeling Central. So there were 10 teams in the big school with 224 swimmers, and there was 14 teams in the small schools with 200 swimmers. So there's 424 swimmers in our OVAC swimming events, swimming championship. So, and that our director there, Bill Brubaker, he's been the swim director for, I think he's in his 43rd year now.
Wow.
So as Ron Mock, Ron Mock used to say the wrestling, he said, when you join the OVAC, it's a till death do us part. You get in there and it just, you make friends. And again, youth and sports, it's hard to step away from once you get in your rhythm and get to know the people and whatnot.
Alrighty, so moving on from OVAC swim, we had wrestling championships over at West Bank Arena, am I correct?
Correct.
Awesome. And I know that's such a great atmosphere for those wrestlers. I know I wrestled in high school, and just to go, we called it OVACs at my school. Just to go to OVACs was just such an exciting moment. You had so many wrestlers, so much good talent in those tournament brackets. We had the division champions. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. We had, let me go through here. The overall champion was Barnesville High School. Now, going into this, we knew it was going to be pretty competitive between Barnesville and University, and it was. Ended up being good duel with these guys here. They had, let me see here, Barnesville had 6 wrestlers in the championship events. University had 5 wrestlers in championships, and they both walked away with 3 overall champions. So 3 champions from each team. And let's hear some individual things here. Let's talk about the Beer Cordy Award. A lot of people, they hear that but don't really quite understand what that is. And that's sponsored, that's given by Wheeling Central High School from a wrestler they had back in the day that they've named the award after. So they've continued. Even though Wheeling Central didn't have a wrestling team for the past few years, they still kept giving this award out. So kudos to them. So
Yeah,
the Beer Cordy Award went to Gage Wright of Parkersburg South. That's like your most valuable wrestler of the tournament. We have what we call a Hercules Award, and the Hercules Award is who gets the most pins in the quickest amount of time. And get this, it was Brock Kaler from University. He's a junior. He's our 285-pound champion, and he pinned 5 of his competitors in a total of 3 minutes, 39 seconds.
Wow.
Yeah, so he'll be back again next
Especially
year.
in the 285 division, like you're putting some big boys down on the mat. That's impressive.
Yes, it is. Yeah, he is impressive. Yeah. And then, so we get into our team champions, Class 1A2. It was Cameron High School, great wrestling program, with the runner-up being Southern Local. Good showing by Southern Local. 3A championship was won by Barnesville, and Wheeling Central was runner-up. 4A champion Oak Glen, followed by Beaver Local. And then the 5A champion was University, and Parkersburg South was runner-up there. And want to mention, too, that Mr. Matt was won by Ed West. And Mr. Matt, it's kind of like a fraternity of either wrestling coaches or people who have given to the sport of wrestling over the several years. And there's a Mr. Matt committee. They meet once a year. They vote on it. And once the winner is chosen, then they call the spouse and say, hey, what size jacket does Ed West wear? Because he'll be at the tournament, but it's a surprise. They don't know that he doesn't know he's won it until it's actually called out at the West Bank Arena. So he's very deserving. Ed West, Mr. Matt, 2024.
Yeah, that sounds like a super special award just to be a part of, dedicating your time to wrestling and being out on that mat just proves how much it means to people to be on the Mr. Mat and get that award.
Exactly, yes. Yep.
Alrighty, so we're going to move on into bowling. I know that we had bowling over this weekend. Again, got some awesome photos there. Had some competitive, very, very competitive bowlers, highlighting some outstanding bowlers that had some significantly high scores. Could you tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. In the bowling, 1A, 5A champions. So 1A through 3A was Connaughton Valley. What a program they've got up there. They've got some new facilities up there, and they've got a 10-alley bowling lane in their facilities. So you can tell they work at it. You can tell that they're on it. So Connaughton Valley won with a total of 3,465 pins. Second runner-up was Monroe Central at 2,794. That's a good showing for them.
Wow, that's such a difference right there.
Yeah.
Speaks volumes for Connaughton Valley.
Yep. Yes, big difference, yeah. And that was girls, and then continuing in girls, the 4A champs was East Liverpool at 3,005 pins, and runner-up was Harrison Central at 2,536. And then finally for 5A girls champs at Parkersburg South, girls won with 2,946, and the runner-up was John Marshall at 2,605. So that was the team standings. A little bit about the individual girls scores here. So the high bowler in 1A, 3A was Delilah Williams from Connaughton Valley, and she rolled a high of 244. She had one game, 244, and her series was 644. In 4A, Addison Rudabaugh of East Liverpool, she rolled a 623 series with a game high of 214. And then in 5A, Brooklyn Taylor of Parkersburg South rolled a 587 series with a game high of 222. So that was your individual champions.
I know I could definitely not even bowl a 200. So those athletes really making stuff happen there on the pins.
Yeah, and they are athletes. Yeah, yes, they are. They're very good. And then on the boys' side, the boys' team champions happened to be Wellsville. So they were new to the bowling within the OVAC. They bowled a 31.76, and Union Local was a runner-up at 31.57. So there's a little battle there. Let's see, 4A champs was Weir High at 34.70, and runner-up Harrison Central at 33.68. And then finally, 5A boys champs was Wheeling Park, 3,731, and Parkersburg South with 3,447.
Oh, that's a really close number right there.
Yeah.
Neck and neck for that Division 5A.
And then here's the boys' individual high bowlers. 1A, 3A was Bobby Brennan. He had a high game of 251 from Connaughton Valley. He had a series of 671. In 4A was Kobe Hennis from Harrison Central. He had a series of 684 with a high game of 288. And in 5A, Zach Davis of Wheeling Park, he had a series of 766 with a high game of 296.
Wow.
Yes.
That is, you're pretty much perfect at that point. You are not missing a pin.
It's good bowling. This OVAC, it's good bowling. And because there's so many athletes, there's so many athletes that it's like, this is amazing. This is really something. And again, when I call them athletes, you look at them, you can tell they master their craft. They work at it.
Yeah, takes
So-
a lot of hard work and dedication.
It does.
In any sport.
In any sport, yeah, to be, that as well as they do, yes. Mhm.
Yeah, that is super awesome. Sounds like it was a really competitive bowling OVAC championship for all divisions, to be honest.
All divisions,
So
yeah.
that's really awesome. We're going to get into some OVAC basketball. I know the women's final standings are out. The men are still playing, trying to get into that semifinal stage of the OVAC championships. We already have our matchups for the women's OVAC championships, and who are those?
Okay, we're going to start this coming Saturday. That's February 3rd. It's going to be at 10 o'clock is the 3A, Class 3A game. But right now, we're starting our semifinals tomorrow on Monday. So tomorrow, we've got Martins Ferry, Union Local, and Fort Fry Belair.
And Martins Ferry is sitting at 13-4. That's a really strong team right there, with Union Local coming in at 11-4. So that'll be a tough matchup right there.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, and then you have Fort Fry. I mean, they are going on 14-4. So as well as Belair with 13-5. So those are just tough teams that know how to win. I'm sure it'll be a really competitive tournament right there.
It will, and those four schools, it's rich tradition in girls basketball as well. So that makes it even more special that they're going to bring it. All four schools will definitely bring it.
It's exciting.
So then we go from 3A at 10 o'clock, we go to 4A girls at noon on Saturday. And for tomorrow, East Liverpool will be at Indian Creek, and Oak Glen will be at Buckeye Local for the semifinals.
Awesome.
So that's 4A. 5A, which will be Saturday at 2 p.m. For the semifinals tomorrow, we have Parkersburg South, number 4, traveling to number 1 Morgantown. And then number 3, Wheeling Park, travels to Steubenville for the semifinals.
All righty.
And Saturday at 4 p.m., we have 1A girls. And for semifinals, tomorrow, number 4, Valley, travels to Cameron, number 1. And number 3, Connaught Valley, travels to number 2, Trinity Christian.
All righty.
And then finally, we have the 2A girls, which will be Saturday, 6 p.m. For semifinals, tomorrow we have Steubenville Central, number 4, traveling to Monroe Central, number 1, and number 3, Frontier, going to number 2, River.
All righty. Sounds like so we got some competitive matchups for the women's OVAC championships. And where's that located again?
Harrison Central. Yeah,
Awesome.
out in Cadiz, Ohio. Yeah,
It'll be
we've
a
been
good-
there for about, this will be our 3rd year now, and it's a great facility, a lot of room. It's a good facility, a new facility.
Yeah, I know the Huskies have really nice sports facilities out there in
Yes.
Cadiz. So that's really exciting for them to get the chance to go out there once again. Alrighty, and we also have the OVAC men's basketball standings. We're coming down the final stretch of those games. We have Class 5A with Morgantown sitting at 11-1. We have Marietta sitting at 14-1. And then we have Wheeling Park going in there at 9-4, and Brook going in there at 7-5, and it's looking like that's going to be the matchups there for the 5A division. I know that's a competitive division. 5A has a lot of athletes, a lot of competitiveness, just as much as any other division.
Yes.
But with the high athletes, there's some high volume athletes there. And then we have Class 4A with Harrison Central sitting at 13-1, with East Liverpool at 12-2, St. Clairsville sitting there at 10-4, and then we have Beaver Local with 6-9. Now, that'll also be looking like, as far as these standings look, those will be the matchups for those semifinal games
yes.
as well. So we have Class 3A with Union Local sitting there at 11-3, Wheeling Central with 10-3, and then we have Buckeye Trail sitting there at 12-1. So that's a pretty competitive team over there, Buckeye Trail, Old Washington, and then we have Martins Ferry at 7-4. Again, these standings looking like those are going to be the teams playing in that semifinal OVAC championship matchups.
Yeah, we have what we call a cutoff date. So I believe that's Tuesday. Whatever games they play tomorrow and Tuesday will be added to their record. So you might see some last-minute jockeying for that 4th slot,
Right.
in the Final Four. Yes.
Yeah, I know. Like I said, Buckeye Trail was sitting there, or Martins Ferry was sitting there at 7-4, and then you have Barnesville at 7-7. If Martins Ferry loses their last two, say they play Monday and Tuesday, and Barnesville jumps up there, they could jump into that 4th spot as well.
Correct. And then the basketball committee will get together Wednesday morning and go over the final standings, and then say, okay, here's the pairings. Here's who's playing who and when. And then for the teams that don't make the tournament, the same basketball committees, we pair schools together. So we make sure those teams that don't make the tournament, Each school gets one home game and one away game to get their 22 total games in the season.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So we have Class 2A with Monroe Central sitting at 13-0, a competitive team that hasn't lost a game yet this season. And then we have Toronto at 11-4. Then we have River sitting at 8-4, and Steubenville Catholic sitting at 9-6, and Shadyside close behind them at 8-7. So we'll see how this Monday and Tuesday wraps up for that division specifically to see who gets that fourth spot.
Right.
And then we have 1A with Trinity Christian at 8-4. And then we have Cameron at 9-3 with Wellsville at 7-7 and Madonna at 5-5. And then I think that wraps up all of the divisions there for the men's OVAC championships. When are the dates going to be coming out for these semifinal matchups?
The dates will come out this Wednesday morning. That's when the committee gets together and says, okay, who's eligible, who's made it, who's a 1-4, 2-3, and then we'll pair the other teams that didn't.
Sounds awesome. All righty. And I know you had a little bit of a highlight. You wanted to talk about a meet for wrestling coming up here soon.
Yes, thank you. Last but not least, we have dual meet wrestling championships this Wednesday and Thursday. And for that, we have in the 1A, 2A, we have Shadyside, Caldwell, and Steubenville Central going for like a try. And then from that will be the winner or the champion will be crowned. And then in 2A, we have Martins Ferry and Magnolia and Barnesville, Lindsley. 4A, we have Oak Glen, Buckeye Local, Weir, and Edison. And then in 5A, Steubenville, Wheeling Park, John Marshall, and Brook. So we will crown our OVAC Bill Hine Gardner dual meet champions on Wednesday and Thursday in wrestling.
That's very exciting. It's going to be very busy once again throughout these next few weeks for you, Dirk Decoy. Yeah. So this has been On the Air with the OVAC. We're going to be posting, I should say, on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube every Monday, as we'll have our shows on Sunday. And upcoming episodes will be with different directors from different sports. Mm-hmm. I know that we talked about maybe having the basketball director coming on next week.
Yes.
So that'll be very exciting for us to talk about the basketball upcoming for all of those divisions. We'll also try to get some coaches on here as well as athletes of those championship teams to get what it took to get to that point to make that championship team happen. It's been a pleasure, Dirk Decoy. I'm super excited to continue to work with you and continue to make this grow. This has been On the Air with the OVAC. Thanks, guys.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, once again, and welcome to the 77th Annual OVAC Rudy Munley All-Star Charity Football Classic, presented by Huntington Bank.